Welcome to the Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today. Let's continue our journey through every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. And today we're going to focus on a game called SpongeBob SquarePants Legend of the Lost Spatula. Now, I'd never heard of this game before, but I'm not really like a huge SpongeBob fan. It's not that I like dislike the show. It's just simply that I never really watched it a whole lot growing up because it came out when I was in high school. We didn't have cable at the time. And so like everything I know about SpongeBob came like after the fact or like from DVD episodes or just like clips or memes, things like that. So like I know a little bit about it, but I'm just not going to know like all the little references throughout the game. But as we go through the video, if there's anything that you noticed that I didn't notice, let me know in the comments down below all the SpongeBob lore and things that I got wrong in this episode. Now, this particular game did get moved way up on the queue because one of our subscribers, known as C-Pink, commented on one of my earlier videos and said he'd like to see Legend of the Lost Spatula, a review of that game. So, naturally, we're covering it sooner than later. So let's go ahead and dive into SpongeBob SquarePants Legend of the Lost Spatula. Now, I always like to start the videos off by looking at the box art for the game, and the box art for Legend of the Lost Spatula is pretty true to the game. Of course, you got SpongeBob smack there in the middle, holding the golden spatula, which you're trying to rescue throughout the game. And of course, you got the little side characters like Patrick, Sandy, Squidward off to the side, and their appearance might be a little overemphasized on the cover here, because truth be told, you don't get to play as any of them in the game, and the greatest extent of their involvement is just simply talking to them. And so, it might be a little overemphasized there, but overall, I mean, the cover displays SpongeBob, his golden spatula, and I think it's a pretty good cover for the game. Now, when you start the game up here, I actually didn't know who the developer for the game was, but it's going to be Vicarious Visions, and they were huge back in this time period because they helped with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, as well as like the Spider-Man game on the PlayStation 1, and some great games under their belts, and they're still making good games because they did the remaster of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 a while back, as well as some other remasters along the way. And so, I mean, like, they're actually a really big company, so that got me pretty excited when I saw that they were working on this game. Now, you do get to the title screen here, and the title screen looked okay at first. I mean, it's got a little SpongeBob over there, you know, the title sequence here, a fantastic rendition of the SpongeBob theme song in 8-bit or chiptune. I mean, it just sounds just like it, and I always love chiptune remixes of popular songs. But I thought the title screen looked fine at first, but then when I started the actual game up and we get this cutscene here of SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, and the spatula or the statue here, and I mean the graphics on the story here are absolutely astonishing for the Game Boy Color. And I'm like, if they can look so good in the story here, why did they put these graphics on the title screen? Never made the title screen pop all that much more instead of the bland graphics that they put on it. But regardless, we have an amazing looking story here, and the story itself is actually pretty fun too. SpongeBob is out and about, discovers a statue of his oven with a fella on top holding the spatula. He doesn't know what it's all about, so he goes and asks Mr. Krabs, and Mr. Krabs tells him that there used to be this ancient civilization called Pompeii, and oh, it's like Pompeii. Oh my gosh, that's even better now to think about it. Because the ancient city got destroyed by the Mount Vesuvius. Because it got destroyed by Mount Kabluvius. Oh my gosh, it's so much better than I ever realized. You guys witnessed me discovering the actual pun of the game during the video here. But regardless, Pompeii was known for this amazing cook and his golden spatula, and once it was destroyed by Mount Kabluvius, it was completely wiped out. The Flying Dutchman came through, stole the golden spatula, and has hidden it in this basically like portal behind the statue, and it's missing the 4 oven knobs. And so your goal here in the entire game is basically find these 4 oven knobs, unlock the portal to go find the Flying Dutchman and get back to Golden Spatula and become the best fry cook that the entire area has ever seen. And so the story itself is fairly wacky, even better now that I actually realized the puns behind it, but it's a good little story that sets up a overall pretty wacky game. So when the game itself gets rolling a little bit, you're going to notice like it's a really good looking game. The colors are all very vibrant in it, the animations are all really well done, it's very charming as in like all the little interactions that you have or little animations that SpongeBob does. I mean, like even when he jumps, like the little jump animation, I mean, it's just comedic, even just watching the jump animation. All the little different weapons he has, those are comedic as well. Even if SpongeBob like stays in one spot too long, like he begins to do little dance moves and such, and all of those are really charming and really entertaining at the same time. And even like when SpongeBob gets hit, instead of like having like a little health bar or something like that, every time you get hit, you just simply lose more of your clothes. And so you get hit one time, you lose your pants. You get hit a second time, you lose your underwear, and that's when you die. And so the game worked very hard to be like charming as far as like entertaining, and just keep the spirit of the goofiness of the show alive, even in the game. But all of these things are sort of like on the surface things, and when you dive a little bit deeper into the game gets a little bit on the confusing side because it's sort of an open world game for its time anyway, because it gives you very vague directions on what to do. Like your first mission is just simply to gather your things, and you start journeying from one part of the city to another part of the city. It's a 2D map system of sorts, and so you journey through, you get to talk to some familiar faces like Sandy's here, and Patrick's here, and Squidward's here, and you get to talk to all these fellas and ladies in the show, and there's a lot that I don't recognize. Like I don't know who this fella is, and I don't know who the muscular little fish over here are, if they even have names in the show. And so there's a lot of people like I don't know inside these little towns. I just simply know like the main people. If you recognize any of the characters that I'm not naming in the screen right here, let me know in the comments down below how well this game held up on including a lot of different side characters inside the show. But regardless, I didn't really know where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do, what it meant by gather your things, and so I just sort of start journeying around the maps here, and I eventually get to one little area past the little bodybuilders area, and I start doing some platforming here, and I do notice the platforming is pretty difficult, because as cute as that jump was at the beginning, it's really difficult to aim like how far you're jumping with that jump, and it's always a delay on the jump at the same time. And so I have a lot of trouble with that particular jump in the game, and it really makes it difficult because a significant portion of this game is around like just jumping from one platform to the other. And toward the end of the game, oh my gosh, like you're falling like multiple stories down to like restart the entire level. Very frustrating. But regardless, right here, you're just simply doing a few small jumps in these little bubble areas, and you eventually get to the little anchor here, and the anchor takes you straight down to the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of the sea or bottom of the goo or whatever this is, this little substance is right here. And you get down to the bottom and you open up this enormous chest, and there's a map inside that's going to tell you where all 4 of the knobs to the oven statue to unlock the portal to go to the Flying Dutchman to get back to Golden Spatula. So this part of the game was pretty much only necessary to sort of give you your directions on which paths you want to go on to get these 4 knobs. But before you leave the area here, there are little treasure chests around. There's a lot of treasure chests throughout the game that, give you like extra lives or extra ammo, things like that. But you open up one of the little treasure chests in the same little cave as the map, and you actually get your little springy shoes. And that allows you to make like super jumps inside the game. And these aren't necessary, but holy cow, these are going to come in handy, especially in the later parts of the game when you want to just sort of bypass a lot of the little platforming areas. The springy shoes come in to a very large effect later on in the game. And you also notice while you're on the select screen here, there's a lot of different weapons that you can fill in. Obviously you have your base weapon, which is simply where you just like blow bubbles out. Pretty ineffective against like pretty much every single enemy except for a couple of the bosses in the game. You also have this little fishing net here where you can like capture smaller enemies, and you're going to use that a great deal as you're journeying through the earlier part of the game. You have the springy shoes, and there's a few more blanks here as well, but we'll get to those as we journey further into the game. But regardless, now that we have the map, we need to visit Jellyfish Fields, Undersea Desert, the Kelpozoic Jungle, as well as the Carnival. And it doesn't tell you like what order you want to go in these, and it doesn't really show you super well on the map like where these are exactly located at. And so what I ended up doing is I just sort of wandered around the basically all the little town areas until I found little branching paths that go off of that tell you to journey to one of these 4 areas. And that's sort of how I found all these areas. And these are basically your 4 worlds that you have to go through. And it doesn't tell you like which one to go through first, and it doesn't tell you which one to go through last. And so it's completely up to you on like what order you want to go in. Now the one that I happened to find first was the Undersea Desert. Now when you go into the Undersea Desert, I'm expecting like an entire like desert landscape, however that would work in a underwater level. But you don't really get a desert at all. It's really just simply like a ton of caves that you're journeying through, and the enemies don't really line up with what you'd think of like a desert either. It's just simply going to be like urchins or little fish that are journeying through, or these little clams that are coming at you. I mean honestly, like it's a little disappointing as far as like the aesthetics to it, but it is fairly colorful. It has a lot of hidden items throughout the level, so if you get hit a lot, you can replenish your pants and things like that. And trust me, you will get hit a lot in this game, because not only are like the jumps like hard to do, like the enemy locations and enemy placements are like right there, so when you miss the jump, you get hit by an enemy, or you just simply run too fast from left to right, you hit by an enemy that you didn't predict would be there, or you finally make a jump just perfectly and on the new platform is of course an enemy that you couldn't have seen. And so like it's a little unfair, I think, especially for like younger players playing the game, because there's just so many opportunities to get hit that you wouldn't know were there unless you played the game like ahead of time and you were expecting the enemy to be there. Now as I'm opening up all the chests as I'm journeying through, I do notice that one chest continues to have like ammo for what's called a net launcher, and I realized like I never got a net launcher, and so I have the smaller spatula that can throw out Krabby Patties at this point, but I don't have a net launcher, and so I keep getting ammo for this, and it happens all throughout the game, and I start wondering like, was I supposed to already have the net launcher? But regardless, it doesn't have like a major effect yet. I just simply notice I'm getting a lot of ammo for a weapon that I don't have. But after going through a lot of platforming here, you finally get to the boss, who's like a cowboy fish, and I'm not sure if he's from the show or not, but it's a cowboy fish, which makes the desert's part, laugh a little bit better. Cowboy in the desert, I guess makes a little bit more sense. But regardless, all you gotta do to defeat him is just simply toss Krabby Patties at him. And of course, when you toss a Krabby Patty at him, he has to eat it. And after he's eaten enough, he has to take a nap. And when he takes a nap, that's when he gives up his knob to the oven statue. So now you've got one of the 4 knobs for along your journey here. But now that I'm done with the Undersea Deserts, I need to find the next level, so I go back to the overworld map. I just sort of wander around again, and I eventually come to an area called the Carnival. Now the Carnival you would expect to be like, little circus tents and things like that. No, nothing at all like that, just another sort of bland undersea level here that has no connection to the Carnival at all. I'm not sure like why they titled the words these particular things, or why they didn't decorate the worlds to match up with the titles. I don't know. But regardless, this level is even more frustrating than the last one. The jumps are more precise. There's more jumps that you can fall multiple levels from. And it's really getting to the annoying part of the game now, because it really just sort of bases the entire game upon just giving you a massive area to explore, and you can have to do all these particular jumps, and if you mess up on a jump, you just have to go through the level all over again. And it feels like that's how it's trying to, like, I guess, put a little cushion on the gameplay time here, by just sort of depending on you messing up and having to repeat large portions of the level to continue on. But as you go through the Carnival level here, there's actually not a boss, which is a little bit disappointing. I assume there'd be like a boss at the end of every one of the 4 levels, but you don't have a boss here. You just simply get to the end, you get another little knob for the oven, and of course you get knocked back out of the level to journey on to another level. Now naturally, I begin to look through the overworld again, no clear direction like where I'm going, and I eventually find another area called the Jellyfish Fields. And I don't know really what I was expecting for this level to look like, since the last 2 didn't look anything like what I thought they would, but it's very much of like a green kelp forest, which I think would make more sense for the jungle Keltopia or the Kelpozoic jungle. But regardless, this is the Jellyfish Fields, and it's all green here, and it looks itself a lot like a jungle. But as you're journeying through it, it is keeping up the annoying side just like the rest of them. The enemies are not like any real variety from the first 2 levels. For the most part, the enemies are almost all the same throughout the entire base game here. And as you're journeying up through the vertical part of the 2D platforming areas, you begin to journey left and right like in the other levels. And just like then, when you get to the top and you think you're in good shape, you end up missing one small jump, and all the way back down to the very bottom you go to journey through the entire level again. It is a very, very frustrating aspect of the game to just simply drop you from the top to the bottom and expect you to journey through all of the little obstacles, all of the platforms all over again. But as I'm going through here, I end up discovering some random item that just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And it's just a little beehive here, and evidently the beehive has some jelly in it. And if you take the jelly back to Mr. Krabs, or I'm sorry, back to Squidward, he'll actually give you some glasses, which I didn't know about until later. But regardless, I pick up this beehive, have no clue initially what it's going to do, but it's going to give me an item later on in the game. And so at this point, I am getting pretty frustrated with the platforming elements. So I just simply slap on my special shoes here, my slinky shoes, or my springy shoes, and I just simply start jumping massive jumps throughout the level to try to clear it as fast as I can. And by doing this, I do get hit a whole lot more, but at the same time, there's so many treasure chests I can open up to get another pair of pants in order to replenish my life, and so I just begin to jump through the levels. And yes, I still die a lot while doing this, but it still seems a whole lot faster than trying to navigate through all the little platforms, all the little enemies, and all of that. And I eventually, by doing my jumping strategy, get all the way to the end of the level, and we have another boss for this level. Now this boss is this giant little jellyfish here, which fits in with the title of Jellyfish Fields. And of course the jellyfish can come down and do a little electrical shock on you. Makes sense for a jellyfish to do that. And all that you have to do is you have to get out your little, I guess your bubble gun or your bubble blower here, and just simply throw a few little bubbles up at him, and the bubbles hit him and stun him for a little bit. And of course, wait a second, throw another bubble up there, and after like 5 to 10 bubbles, really not a whole lot, you've defeated the jellyfish. And at that point, he gives up another knob to the oven. So now you have 3 of the 4 knobs, and we only need 1 more knob in order to advance. So naturally, I'm back on the overworld map, trying to find where I'm supposed to go with this last, area to find the last knob. Where is this Kelpozoic jungle? And I come across one path that says I have to have the net gun in order to advance on that path. So naturally, this has to be the final area of the game, and I absolutely have to have that net gun that I've been getting ammo for all throughout the game. And so I'm starting thinking, like, I must have missed it somewhere along the lines. And I got to thinking, there was one area that I did sort of, scurry through a little bit faster than the rest, and that was the very first area where I ended up getting the treasure map. I didn't actually finish that level. I just simply got the map, and then I went on my search, elsewhere in the world. So I went back to the area that had a treasure map. I journeyed a little bit further in that particular area, and lo and behold, there was the net gun, and now I'll have the final path opened up. But before I go down to the final area, I do end up talking to Squidward again. I give him that jelly that I didn't know I was supposed to even have to give to him, but then he gives me this pair of glasses, and you can put the glasses on. It has the classic SpongeBob glasses look, which I actually enjoy on the sprite quite a bit there. But the glasses allow you to look inside of a treasure chest, which is like the most pointless move that this game has to offer, because like every treasure chest is something that's good. And so like, why wouldn't you just simply open up every single treasure chest you come across? Why do you put glasses on to look at the treasure chest to see? And so I don't really understand like the point of having the glasses, unless you want to like maybe save like some of the extra lives or something like that. I don't know, but regardless, you got the most useless item in the game, but at the same time, a really cool sprite to go along with it, so I can't complain too much about having that particular item in the game. And then you head on into the Kelpozoic jungle, and this is probably the best base level inside the game. It's a little more straightforward to some of the other ones. The its overall aesthetic is a little bit better. I enjoy the kelp as it's coming up. I think it makes the most sense of any of the levels. As you're journeying through it, like I said, it's pretty straightforward here. And you come to a guy that you have to give a pizza to. And I did forget to mention that Mr. Krabs gave me a pizza earlier in the game. I delivered the pizza to him. There's a little passageway that opens up behind him. I continue journeying through that passageway, and it comes to the boss inside the level, which is a shark. And the shark, you actually have to use the net gun, which makes sense why you couldn't go down this passageway unless you had the net gun. And of course, you have to throw a little bubble up at him. It stuns him a little bit. Throw the net gun out at him, or a little net on him, captures the shark, and it's really pretty straightforward. It's a cute little fight here. It's probably my favorite boss fight in the game because it actually has a two-step requirement there. But once you've captured the shark, he gives you the final knob to the oven, and now you have all 4 knobs to open up the portal to go to the Flying Dutchman. So you go into the portal here, you fall down a little shaft here, and you're in an area called Rock Bottom. Now Rock Bottom is a pretty straightforward level, just simply left to right. There's a little bit of vertical movement here and there, but for the most part, like, it's not confusing at all. It's the most straightforward level in all of the game. If anything, the game got like more straightforward as I went. And there's a lot of new enemies in this level. They look really familiar like in the show, but I can't tell if they are in the show or not in the show, or if their moves are part of the show or not the show. But let me know in the comments down below if this fella here is in the show or not. But regardless, you continue through the level, you fall down another little passageway, and then you're in basically what looks like a hellscape. It looks like you're in the Flying Dutchman's lair, which is, I guess, to some degree, the hell of SpongeBob. And in this area, you also get some new enemies, and it has probably the best aesthetic of any of the levels as well, as far as like different colors and whatnot. And you get little ghost creatures, you get little ghost bats, you get ghost pirates. I mean, it's really weird, like the entire game, like the 4 base levels, like kept the same enemies almost the entire way through. And then in these last 2 little levels here, they throw all these new enemies in here, and it's like, why not mix it up a little bit throughout the game instead of just sticking them all in the last 2 levels? But regardless, a little bit of change of pace is pretty nice. Now this particular level here, it is very much of a vertical platform, as in like you continue to climb higher and higher and higher, and worse than any of the other ones, when you can get to the very top, you can fall like literally all the way straight back down to the bottom, and you have to go through the entire level again. It's like a seriously like 4 or 5 minutes of platforming to get back up there, and this is very much in line with the rest of the game. But it's just like you're all the way at the end of the level, like you're tired, you don't want to go through any of these repeat platforming, and I mean it really is just like hell in the game. And so I mean I guess they lived up to their name a little bit, because this is the most annoying part of the entire game. But eventually you do get to the Flying Dutchman, and the Flying Dutchman is once again a really easy boss. All the bosses in this entire game have been very simple. You just throw out a few Krabby Patties, he eats those, flies up to the top, drops these little obstacles, little objects down on you trying to hit you, comes back down for another little Krabby Patty for him to eat, and the battle just continues to repeat in the exact same format all the way through. And it only takes like 3 Krabby Patties for him to die. I mean, it's really, really simple. But after you've defeated him, you do finally get the golden spatula, and you have officially beat SpongeBob Legend of the Lost Spatula. At this point, you do get a little end credits here where SpongeBob becomes like the greatest fry cook in all of Bikini Bottom. Mr. Krabs gets enormously rich off all the Krabby Patties that you're selling, and it's a nice little happy ending to the game. But overall, it's a pretty fun, enjoyable little wacky story to go along with it, and I like the story in the game, and I like the graphics in the game, the colors, the music was pretty good throughout the entire game. There were a lot of positive aspects in the game, but most of the positive aspects are like on the surface. And like when you dive deeper into the game, the mechanics and the depth is just simply not there. The mechanics are really annoying. None of the weapons like seem to really do anything against the enemies except for the one where you just simply use your net to capture the enemy. All of the platforming is incredibly difficult, and that's because not only do you have a horrible jump mechanic to use, but also just simply because when you miss a platform, you have to repeat so much of the area all over again, and the platforms are just simply set up in areas that sort of push you into enemies when you get off of it, which could knock you off a platform or just simply kill you right then and there. So the game is really, really annoying and feels like it like sets you up for failure in a lot of areas just simply to cushion out the playtime for the game. I do like the aspect that you can sort of choose your own adventure, go whichever direction you want to go in, but all the levels felt like completely interchangeable. Didn't feel like they really made any difference on like what they were titled. The enemies in the level, the mechanics in the level, they all felt like pretty much exactly the same. And so like everything's interchangeable, and the game is going to get pretty old pretty fast, even though it's only like a 1 to 2 hour experience. It took me closer to 2 hours because I got lost a few times in the game, and like I said, I didn't pick up the net launcher when I was supposed to, and so I'm just trying to figure things out. If you knew like what to do in the game, where to go, it's still probably like a little over an hour adventure, just because you're probably going to get knocked off a lot of platforms as you go throughout the game. But overall, I'd say if you're a SpongeBob fan, I think there's a lot of like, you know, fan service inside the game as far as like different places to recognize, different characters to recognize, different enemies potentially to recognize, probably some of the songs in the game, the fun storyline. So I think if you're a fan of SpongeBob, this is probably a pretty fun little game to go through. If you're not a fan of SpongeBob, if you're just sort of indifferent to SpongeBob and the characters don't mean a whole lot to you or the inside jokes don't mean a whole lot to you, this game is probably just going to get more on the annoying side, and you'll probably end up putting it down before you actually finish the game. But what do you all think? Do you enjoy SpongeBob Legend of the Lost Spatula? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above. And also, if there's a game that you want to see me review sooner than later, let me know that in the comments down below as well. And as always, go out there, find a great game to play. Just simply have a great rest of the day.